மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.
Welcome back, guys. In this video, I want to talk about a very typical London idea, which occurs very frequently in many different lines, and it's pretty much required if you're a London player. You should know how to deal with these sort of situations. So going forward here, we have what starts out as a pretty typical London after c5, e3, take. And here black aims to put immediate pressure on white with queen b6. And this is a move that we'll see quite often from the black side against the London, as it's very typical to attempt to pressure the b2 pawn. And it can be quite annoying to deal with if you're white and you don't necessarily want to play a weakening move like b3, and seems like there might not be too many other alternatives here. But as we'll see, there is a very nice response that white can play in this position. So the best move here is knight a3, which you don't see every day, especially so early on, just developing your knight to the edge of the board. But there's a couple of ideas which make this move very powerful. Of course, we'll get to queen take b2 and why this is a pretty severe mistake from black. But I do want to point out that the idea of knight to a3 is not only to control the c4 square, but potentially go to b5 in many lines. So if black weren't to grab the pawn on b2 and play some move, I don't know, like e6, then white is very happy to jump into c4. I'm actually realizing this is a pretty strong line, given that d6 is weak and the queen doesn't have too many places to go. Maybe it has to go to c6 or even back to d8. White would be doing very well here as a knight defends the b2 pawn from c4. So going forward to the tactical moment after queen take b2, white now can play the very strong knight to b5, and this has two purposes. Not only is it threatening the very direct knight c7 with the fork against the rook and the king, but it's also attempting to trap the queen on b2, as the queen is very kind of awkwardly placed. White controls these two escape squares from the queen. And if we look at a line like queen b4 check, this doesn't do anything after bishop d2. White is now guaranteed to win material as the queen is attacked. Knight c7 is a threat, and black can't defend both threats. So going back after knight b5, black's already in some trouble, and all the lines will work out in white's favor. I do want to cover probably the most expected move from black here. Looks like knight d5 can be played with some multi-purpose ideas. First of all, guarding c7 and also attacking the bishop. And white does have to respond accurately here. If white doesn't play accurately, it can very easily lose the advantage. But in this position, there is a very nice tactical sequence to take advantage of the queen. And we're going to ignore the undefended bishop for the time being, and start with rook b1, attacking the queen, essentially forcing queen take a2, only safe spot for the queen. Now the rook can move back to a1. This is a key idea, where it looks like we've just repeated the position and lost a pawn for nothing. But it turns out that this half-open a file is actually more valuable than the pawn. In many cases, we want the rook exerting some pressure, perhaps creating some pain against the a pawn, as we'll see in the coming moves. So in this position, white has another very strong move, and it's a simple retreating move. It's bishop d2. This not only defends the bishop, but it takes away any sort of escape from the queen. It restricts the knight on d5, and now there's a very direct threat for white. The threat is to play c4, chase away the knight from d5, and then either go for knight c7 or bishop c3, which would actually trap the queen. So if we look at this position, there's not really much black can do to stop c4. Perhaps the best attempt is to play a6, going for some sort of counterplay, but now we see the a pawn is doing nothing, as it is pinned to the rook, so white can continue a c4 here. And the position could get messy if black goes for knight b4, but really white has everything under control. Even though knight c2 looks like an annoying threat, or even queen take a1 could be a threat, white can go ahead and play bishop c3 just in time to trap the queen. And I guess the only chance for black is to play knight c2. but after the very simple king d2, we have what looks like a really weird, messy position, but black's queen is still trapped. This knight is attacked. A move like queen take a1 is met with bishop take a1, very important. Meanwhile, let's say a move like knight e3, I think just walks into king take e3, and white's queen is safe and black's queen is still trapped. So somewhat of a funny position, developing the king to e3, but keeping the black queen trapped, and white is cruising to victory from this position. So going back, somewhat entertaining line, but goes to show how the b2 pawn can be poisonous in these sort of lines. And normally, if black goes for this early queen b6, you would most like to create a situation where you're okay giving away the pawn to get some active play. And in this case, knight a3 is a very thematic move to access the b5 or c4 squares. I do want to point out one more small detail, that if we go back to this position, knight c3 is also playable with the same idea of queen take b2, knight b5. This would transpose to the line we just saw. However, I don't think knight c3 is the most accurate move, because black can play a6 here. And the knight on c3 is actually somewhat restricted, where if we compare this to the other line after knight a3, a6, white can very happily play knight c4 and keep the initiative. So I hope this example shows some value and some key ideas that if you haven't been familiar with, hopefully it can bring some insight into your own games. And I think there's many sorts of positions where these ideas apply. So hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next lesson.
மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.